No? Where's his son? You lost him? Okay. I wanna discuss the we're up to Hadlakas Neiros now. So I want to discuss the tchina that women say when they b'shas Hadlakas Neiros, right? There's a tefillah that women say b'shas Hadlakas Neiros where they ask for children, Talmidei Chachamim. It's a bunch of songs. Everybody knows it. It's a pretty famous tchina that women say. I want to start with a shtickle Lag Baimer hook. The Mishnah in Avos in Perek Beis says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had 5 Talmidim, and Hayamayna Shvachim. He would say the mile of each one of them. One of them was a bar sid shein ma'abetipa. One of them was, a different milas. One of them, he said on Rabbi Shua ben Chananya, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said his mila is Ashrei Eladatei. Lucky is the one who gave birth to him. That's the particular mila that he chose to say about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, about Rabbi Shua ben Chananya. Now, the mila of Ashrei Eladatei is it's an interesting mila. It doesn't really say anything about the benefit of the person you're talking about. It's just, Ashrei Eladatei. So it's interesting to me is that the place where we find that mila became popular is in the song Bar Yochai. Right? The song that everyone sings has 11 pizmayim. There's 11 pizmayim of the song Bar Yochai. The song Bar Yochai is made up like out of 500 years ago by someone, Reb Shimon Lavi. He was a Tunisian Jew. I think he was a Rav in Tripoli. The song didn't catch on by it wasn't made up in Galicia, Bekitzer, and it didn't catch on right away. It took a few hundred years till it made it to everybody. And the song is a song that's full of like remazim to zayars and different mamari Kabbalah and etc. There's a sefer by someone, I forgot his name now. His name slipped my mind. He wrote a sefer called Bar Yochai, which goes through every piece of the song and shows what the makar is, like what zayar, what medrash, what chazal was the mechaber of the song referring to, that he wanted to incorporate in this pisman of Bar Yochai. Now, after the first 10 kapitals of Bar Yochai, which are built on the Esther Spheres, which is built on the basic framework of Kabbalah, the 11th one is Bar Yochai Ashrei Eladatei. The pisman says Bar Yochai Ashrei Eladatei, and then it says Asher Meshamim Teirasai, and then that wraps up the song. Now this mile of Ashrei Eladatei that it says in the pisman, so that's the same mile that's in this Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. So in the sefer Bar Yochai, his name is Yiddishe Zelig Margulis. He's the one who put out the sefer. He was actually a Talmud of the Minchas Elazar and a Talmud of the Saba Kadisha, Rabbi Shlomo Al-Pandri. He's the one who brought them together. He set up the meeting. The Minchas Elazar famously went to Eretz Yisrael in the 20s, spent the Lag Baimer there. So in his beer on the song, he says Ashrei Eladatei. Why do we refer to that specific mile Ashrei Eladatei? He says because often the child's accomplishments and what the child is able to accomplish in Torah and Yiddishkeit comes from his mother's work that he put in. This is and he brings different zayars that imply that a woman's contribution, a mother's contribution to her child's future success and learning is more potent than the father's. It's more substantial than the father's. It makes a bigger ratio. Now, that is something that's also being referenced when we say, when women say this tefillah, this tchina before Hadlakas Neiros, and I'll show you how. The Magen Avraham is the one who brings the. Let me say it like this. Really, it's a strange thing because me'ikar adin, it's not even clear that women have a chiyuv chinuch. Meaning the Pashtus says that a father is mechuyev to mechanech his child, and whether or not women are included in the chiyuv of chinuch on their children is far from a given. L'mashal, the Gemara in Nazir on Daf Chav Ches, the Gemara says ha'av madir es b'noy. A father is allowed to be madir es b'noy, meaning he's allowed to make the rabbanan dik naziris for his son b'teres chinuch. A father could say, I'm going to make my son a nazir b'teres chinuch. But the diik is, and the Gemara makes this diik, only an av is madir es b'noy, but not as bitay. And also it's an av, not an aim, that's able to be madir. So correct the Gemara, why? So the Gemara brings a machlekes. Rabbi Yochanan says it's exeris hakas. Halacha mishum sinai. It's halacha mishum sinai that a father can be madir, not a daughter, not a mother. Rish Lakish says because if av mechuyev l'chanchay and a mother's not mechuyev l'chanchay, a father's mechuyev in chinuch and a mother's not mechuyev in chinuch. So you have a Gemara mufareshes, you have Rabbi Yochanan and Nazir and Daf Chav Ches saying very clearly that a mother's not mechuyev in chinuch. Now l'maisa there's rayis l'kan. There's a Gemara in Eruvin that seems to sound like a mother is yemechuyev. There's a famous Gemara in Sukkah where the Gemara discusses a sukkah asuya kitaynis, a sukkah that's made out of little tiny booths that are not really big enough to comprise a sukkah. The Gemara brings a raya from Hilni Hamalka who was sitting in such a sukkah, and the Gemara says Hilni's a woman, she's pater. But the Gemara says, but she had children who were sitting with her, and the children are mechuyev. And she did everything properly. But the Gemara implies over there that Hilni Amalka was being mechanech her children in a sukkah. So it sounds like the woman was mechuyev. And there's rayas lekan, and the Rishonim already shtelzach on this like stira. L'mashal the Trumas Hadesha and Taisis Yishanim and Yuma. The Trumas Hadesha and the Taisis Yishanim seem to hold. They paskin. This is the Ri and Taisvis, the Ri, Taisvis Shantz, and the Trumas Hadesha all paskin that a woman does not have a chayiv chinuch on her child. A woman is not mechayiv to mechanech her child. This din is brought down in Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch and Siman Shim Mem Gimel in the end of Hilchos Shabbos. Shulchan Aruch says as follows: Katan Eichel Nevelis ein bezdin mitzuvah lafrishay. Aval aviv mitzvah ligerbay. Bezdin doesn't is not mechuyev to stop him, but his father is mechuyev to yell at him to make him stop doing it. It'll have frisha miyas deraisa. Now on this the Magen Avram brings down. The Magen Avram says aviv mitzvah. Says the Magen Avram aval imay eina mitzvah. His mother's not mitzvah. V'cheinu benazir daf chavtes. Which was Hadeshin Siman Tzadik Dalid. U'maisa the Hilni Besukah daf beis sheishivu b'nei b'toicha ayin sham he chmira al atzma. He brings a tshuva from the Marik that's Madcha the Gemara in Sukkah and says we paskin there's no chiyuv chinuch on a mother. Now the Yerab over here brings a big arichos to dispute this, to argue, brings rayas lakan. It's not a settled, it's far from a simple matter that a mother is b'chlam mechuyev in chinuch of her child. So what is this like central piece of Asher Yeladatay and this like special tchina that's going on over here? What's the central role, Kilo, that a mother plays in the chinuch of her child, even if she's not even mechuyev in chinuch of the child? Now, just a shtickle joke. I was reading an article from Aaron Feldman about feminism, modern day feminism. It's a whole arichistic article. He has like pages and pages, and in there he brings a story that Rabbi Meiselman from Tomo, I think, told him over b'shem his grandfather, his Rebbe, Rabbi Soloveitchik. He says there was once a group of women who had their own minyan. I don't know where this was. They had their own. They used to daven by their like minyan for themselves. It made them feel good. They came to Rabbi Soloveitchik and they asked him they want to be makbid to wear talisim by their minyan. So he said, what about a talis is exciting to you? They said, we see when the men put on the talis, it looks like they're like wrapping themselves in the shechina and they're so wrapped up in the davening. We also want to get a piece of that, that good feeling. So Rabbi Soloveitchik says, here's what I suggest. He says, why don't you take a talis without tzitzis, start with that, use a talis without tzitzis and see what that does for you. See if that gives you that feeling that you're looking for. So okay, they took a talis for a month, they come back to him at the end of the month and they say, he asks him, how's it going? How's this experience with the talis? They say, fabulous. It's amazing. We feel so connected. It's great. So Rabbi Soloveitchik tells them, okay, so you ruled out the tzad that it has anything to do with spirituality. Now let's figure out why you want to wear a talis. So finding the role, it's just this time. This is the Teicha long article over there. But finding the role of Kilo, what the woman's role is, what the mother's role is a little bit hard to like put your finger on exactly. So you could frame it either as nuts and bolts, like there's no cheves chinuch or stam. So here's the deal with the tchina. So the tchina goes as follows: the Magen Avram in Hilchos Shabbos, in Hilchos Hadlakas Neiros, in Siman Reish Samach Gimel, the Magen Avram brings down as follows: the Magen Avram says, "Roi sheyispal leisha b'shas hadlaka." It's roi that a woman should daven b'shas hadlaka. Sheyitin la Hakadosh Baruch Hu banim zecharim meirim b'Torah. That Hakadosh Baruch Hu should give her banim zecharim that are meirim b'Torah. He brings from Mata Moshe b'shem b'chai parshas Yisrei. This is what the Magen Avram says, and this is a minig that's nafus in Gans Klal Yisrael. I think Kamat. Everybody has this tchina that women say b'shas the time of Hadlakas Neiros, where they daven for good children. Now, the pashtus of it is that the Gemara in Shabbos and Daf Chav Beis says haragel bener. Haragel bener. The Gemara says haven lebanim tamidei chachamim. Someone who's ragel bener is going to have children with tamidei chachamim. So this is a perfectly opportune moment when a woman is doing her mitzvah of Hadlakas Neiros to insert a tefillah for banim tamidei chachamim is the perfectly opportune moment. Now, what's this Rabbeinu B'chaya that the Magen Avram is referring to? So this Rabbeinu B'chaya really lays down like the groundwork of like clarifying what the role over here is that we're discussing. What's this special role in chinuch that we're discussing over here? Rabbeinu B'chaya says as follows. He says it's in Parshas Yisrei on the pasuk of Kaisem Lebeis Yaakov. So he talks about Kaisem Lebeis Yaakov, Stam talking to the women first. And then he says as follows: why did Hashem tell Moshe Rabbeinu to instruct the women first? He says as follows: Va'oid she'isha hatayva, a good woman, hisibel atayra. She's a cause for Torah. She's able to schlep her child to the Beis Hamedrash. She's constantly found in the house. And this is he says, V'him rachemes alav. She has rachmanas on him. She's gentle with him. B'kamamine gaguin, with many different ways. So as to make it enticing for him to be involved in learning from the time that he's a child. Even when he gets old, he won't be removed from it. therefore it's roya that a woman should daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'shas hadlakas haner shel Shabbos. She mitzvah mutelas aleh. It's her mitzvah. It's a mitzvah that's mutelas on a woman. She should daven at that time. She yitin la Hashem banim me'irim b'Torah. That's the opportune moment to daven that she should have children that are me'irim b'Torah. Ki atfila yosin ishmas b'shas asiyas mitzvah. Because the tefillah is yosin ishmas b'shas asiyas mitzvah, especially her mitzvah. B'schos ner Shabbos she or tizke labanim b'alei Torah nekras or shenemar ki ne'mitzvah Torah or v'chein darshu razal manda ragel. This is the Rebbeinu Bechaya. This is the real makar of the tchina that women say b'shas hadlakas neiros. Is Rebbeinu Bechaya says it's a few things. It says a woman has the special role of creating like a warm and comfortable environment for the children in order to be able to have a cheshek and a desire to be Yosef Torah. And by the hadlakas neiros, which is her mitzvah, and ki Torah or the fire represents the Torah, the Gemara and Shabbos, that's the perfectly opportune moment for her to insert this tefillah. The Rebbeinu Yoina, similarly, in Igeres HaTshuva, Rebbeinu Yoina in Igeres HaTshuva, in Parak Shlishi, has Igeres HaNashim. And over there in the middle of Igeres HaNashim, he brings all the mitzvahs that are related to women. He talks about hadlakas neiros, and then he throws in that b'shas hadlakas neiros, he says, v'tispalul ba'is hashal b'nei she'yibanei me'irim ba'ilim b'Torah b'mitzvahs, v'tispalul v'tayim yihiratzin she'yibanei me'irim ba'ilim b'Torah b'mitzvahs v'yir shemayim, v'nei she'tfilazu no'ali hispalul b'shas she'yira ha'ira shel ner Shabbos. It says, because this is the opportunity. So Rebbeinu Yoina also like paraphrases the Rebbeinu Bechaya and says that this is the perfect time for a woman to insert this tefillah, because it's her job to foster the warmth of the house, the akaras habayis, and at a moment of hadlakas neiros is when she says, her special tefillah for her children. Now, there's a interesting nekuda with this tefillah. So first of all, I don't have to tell you. Obviously, the Chazon Ish used to say I don't have to tell you stories about what a person's mother could do to impact their learning. But the Chazon Ish used to say that when a bacher comes to yeshiva, he could tell the difference between a bacher whose mother cried by the yihiratzin after hadlakas neiros and one who didn't. This is the Chazon Ish used to say about bachrim. There's another nekuda that I want to bring up about this tchina that's important over here, and that's as follows. This is Yerushalmi in Shabbos, in the 15th parak of Shabbos, that collects a lot of the different Maimorei Chazal associated with Shabbos are collected in that Yerushalmi. Now, a lot of them are in Bavlis also. They're in Gemaras elsewhere. Some in Psachim, some in Shabbos. They're elsewhere. But the Yerushalmi in like one Amud collects a bunch of them, and in there it says a famous Yisaid, and that becomes problematic over here. So let me just read a few of them. The Gemara says as follows over there. The Gemara says. The Gemara says as follows: a person should learn, he should eat. Okay, then Ma'aseh b'chassid echad shiyatzil. This time an interesting story. Ma'aseh b'chassid echad shiyatzil l'tayil b'karmeh b'Shabbos. There was a chassid echad who went to walk his field on Shabbos, and he saw there was a gap in the fence, and he thought in his mind, he said, after Shabbos, I'm going to fix this gap. And then after Shabbos, he decided that was such a shrekul thing that he did. He decided to punish himself, and he didn't fix the gap. And the Gemara says a nace happened, and a big bushy tree grew up in that spot to fix the gap of it. Then the Gemara continues, and it says as follows. It says a rule. The Gemara says like this. Tani, asur l'tvaya tzrachav b'Shabbos. It's asur for a person to be teveya his tzrachav, meaning to daven for things that he needs, to ask for bakashas on Shabbos. Now this is something, it's a halacha, everybody knows this, it kind of has many, many applications, but this is a Yerushalmi, this is the Makar. The Yerushalmi says it's asur for a person to be teveya tzrachav b'Shabbos. Rav Ze'ir Shal or Rav Chia Barba, ma'u meimah reyenu parnasenu. What about the line in benching that says reyenu parnasenu? Could you say that? Amalei told him, tufsus brachas kachi. The surah of the bracha, the teifas habracha includes that, and therefore you're allowed to say it. Now, on this Gemara, the Karbanei Eidah and the Pnei Moshe explain what's the problem with bikush tzrachav. Why is it asur levakish tzrachav b'Shabbos? What's the problem? So the Karbanei Eidah explains as follows. He says the reason is shemechlal einik Shabbos hu sheyachshev ha'adam kilu kol malachta yasuya. Chelik of einik Shabbos is that a person should feel like all his work is done. Kilu kol malachta yasuya v'ashayil tzrachav hu mara behepach. Someone who asks is showing the opposite. He's showing he's not done with whatever he's worried about. He's busy davening for whatever he's worried about, so he's not over it. And Shabbos is supposed to show that you're over whatever is going on. He says, and then he throws in another line. He says, V'gam, maybe the aga b'libay. When you start davening about the things that you need or the things that are wrong, so it makes you worry about those things, and then they're on your mind again. So whatever you're supposed to accomplish by not being worried on Shabbos and feeling like Kol Malachta Yasuya is out the window because now you're thinking about it again. So now, there's a few nekudas that are important to note in this Gemara. Nekuda number one is that the Gemara kind of builds in one of the exceptions. The Gemara asks right away, what about Reyenu Parnaseinu? And the Gemara says, no, Taifas HaBracha. Like if it's part of the bracha, then that's okay. Something like that's standardized is not a problem. And the second feature that's important to note in the Yerushalmi over here is that the Noisei Kelim right away give a reason. And they say it's Mishum Da'aga. It's like you shouldn't be worried and involved in your weekday tzrachim. And I keep those both in mind because they're important. But the kasha is a simple shaila as follows, and this was something that there's many terutzim too, was discussed by many gedolim, is how could a lady, by Kabbalah, by Hadlakas Neiros, now we know the halachas kipshutei, that when a woman likes candles, she's Makabal Shabbos. So, you be Makabal Shabbos, she lights the candles, and then she closes her eyes and she says, just what the words are is a tchina for all sorts of things, mostly ruchniistic things, but some gashmistic things. And then if she's a woman with a heart, she probably adds her own tefillas and a few more for this kid's tzvek and what this kid needs, and a little this, a little that. So basically, it's like the Magen Avraham is instructing you to be mevakesh, instructing every woman by Shas Lakas Neiros to be mevakesh tchinas, which is in directly says to the Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says you're not to be mevakesh tchinas, and over here we're saying you should be mevakesh tchinas. Now, this is a kasha that comes up. There's a lot of ways to ask this kasha. The mashal, the song Kari Bain, that's one of the most popular songs in Klal Yisrael, right? So the song Kari Bain, the first few of them are nothing to do with tefillas, but the last two shtiklach of Kari Bain is a Likadi Le'ikar Revusa, Proik Yasanach, which means redeem Klal Yisrael from Galus, right? Proik Yasanach, that's one tefillah. Then the next one is L'Mikdash Echtov, L'Kaidish Kudshin, bring us back to the Beis HaMikdash. These are two tefillahs back to back in the Kari Bain. The harachamans that most people say on Shabbos is more personal by kashas, meaning there's many ways to ask the same kasha, and the place can ask this in a lot of different ways. But there's some unique terutzim that are negay over here to this one that I want to share. So first of all, I saw brought down b'shem Baruch Mordechai Ezrachi. The teretz as follows. He says this tefillah, this bakashas tefillah of banim scharim me'im bateri says is not a tefillah mitech tzara. This is like it's not a tefillah mitech tzara. It's a tefillah mitech she'ifa. This is an interesting lumdus that he's saying. It's a she'ifa to have children who are good children. It's not a tefillah mitech tzara. It's not that you have bad children now and you're asking like, I want to have good. I want them to improve. It's just a tefillah. It's an aspirational tefillah. And he says tefillahs of aspiration are not tefillah. When we say it's asalad mavakesh trachav, that's when you're asking for something presentable, something that's something that's missing, something you need. That's something that's going to lead to a not Shabbos-tic environment. When you're asking tefillahs of a she'ifa just being shayif, that you should have banim that are reflective of what the banim are supposed to be like, that's a tefillah of a she'ifa, that's not a problem. Now, others say, a much simpler teretz, and this Moshe Steinbruch or some Zalman Auerbach says this, is that tefillahs that are for ruchnius. If you're asking for a ruchniistic thing, then you're allowed to ask it on Shabbos. If you're asking something gashmiistic, that's not something you're supposed to ask. That you should only think. A gashmiistic tchina you think. A ruchniistic tefillah you can even ask on Shabbos. So these tchinas are mostly, in Kari Bain, for example, it's Proik Yasanach, L'Mikdash Echtov, these are ruchnias. When a woman says, V'hizari, V'zakeni l'gadal banim u'bnei banim, this is a ruchniistic tefillah. These type of tefillahs you're allowed to ask on Shabbos, even though normally you're not allowed to ask tefillahs on Shabbos. I think by the Chassidim they say that Yid's gashmias is eich ruchnias. So once you do that route, you could really even ask for anything, because what do you really want gashmis for? You also want it for ruchnias. So it's right there, Yid's gashmis eich ruchnias. So this is a workaround against all tefillahs on Shabbos. Another obvious teretz would be that since it's something that's standardized, you say it every single Shabbos. So it's no different than Reyenu Zunenu, like the Gemara, like the Yerushalmi already says by benching. It's a Taifsei Bracha Kachu. Taifsei Bracha Kachu is not a problem. This is a standardized tefillah. It doesn't inspire any specific, bakasha, any specific daga, so you're allowed to do it. There are others that say, and this I think the Ben Ish Chai says this, is that when this is an interesting story. The Ben Ish Chai says that when a Jewish mother davens for her kids by Hadlakas Neiros, it does the opposite of making her worried. It calms her down. It's like she's davening for her kids, everything's going to be good. So if she came in worried that her kids are not good, then davening for them has the opposite effect. So the Yerushalmi says you're not allowed to daven because it's going to make the aga, but a tefillah that gets rid of the aga, that assuages whatever is bothering her, so that the Ben Ish Chai says is not a problem. It's another teretz to this question. Another teretz that's maybe negaya, it's Taisvis Shabbos, it's Pen Hashmashis. There's different, answers that are negay over here. Now, a different teretz that I saw, the B'tzelach Chachma says, he says it in regards to he says that he has a shaila about a sick person who's being transferred to the hospital on Shabbos. So he's being Mechal Shabbos, they're being Mechal Shabbos for his medical care, and the B'tzelach Chachma shaila is, could he daven for himself while he's being transferred? A person's being transferred to the hospital on Shabbos, could he daven for himself? And the B'tzelach Chachma says that he says a two-pronged svara. He says he says his first svara is that like a version of Imleach Shavei Masai, like something that's so pressing that there is no other time. Meaning it's even Derech Shabbos, it's so pressing you're allowed to daven for him. From there he says Mistama, that's the cheshbon for the tefillah by Hadlakas Neiros also. Meaning like a mother davening for her children, that's Imleach Shavei Masai. There's never a bad time for her to be trying to get there. Now, there's one more teretz that I want to say, and with this one I'll end off, is that there's a big shmooze in the Paiskim about making a Tanai for Kabbalah Shabbos. If a person's allowed to make a Tanai by Kabbalah Shabbos, meaning could a woman light candles and make a Tanai? She's not really being Kabbalah Shabbos for another hour. And this is negay when people want to go to the Kaisel, or they want to go to a neighbor for a Suda, go to family member for a Suda. This is very common child. It comes up a lot. There's a lot to talk about on its own merit. There are some Paiskim that say that Hayois, this tefillah is built in. It's like there's like an automatic Tanai, that every time a lady is being Madlik Neiris and being Makabal Shabbos, she's not being Makabal Shabbos until she's finished davening for her children. Meaning the davening for the children is the last, that's the last chayil thing. Now this is not a Tanai that anyone ever made. It's not but there's a Paiskim that say that since it's built in, and this is what every woman does, B'shas Adlakas Neiris, is like she made a Tanai. And maybe I'll end here, and maybe next week I'll continue talking about Tanaim in Kabbalah Shabbos. There's a lot of different ramifications. Yashikayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.